Hey everyone, and welcome. So, whether you're just getting started with SQL Server or you've been cranking out queries for years, there's this entire layer of incredibly powerful tools that honestly most people just don't know about. In this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at some of these hidden gems that are absolutely going to level up your database game.
Right, so you know your selects, your inserts, your updates, you're comfortable. But what if I told you there's a secret toolkit built right into SQL Server that's just waiting for you to discover it? A toolkit that can make your code so much cleaner, your queries way faster, and your life, well, a whole lot easier. That's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So, here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll talk about smarter data handling. Then, we'll jump into next-level performance. And after that, we'll touch on some really cool modern database features. And at the end, we'll package it all up into your brand new Power Toolkit. Sound good? Let's get started. First up, smarter data handling. This whole section is about tackling those everyday headaches, getting data into your database and getting it out, but in a way that's just way more elegant and, frankly, way more efficient. Okay, we've all been here, right? You've got a list of IDs or a bunch of records in your C# or Python code, and you need to get them all over to a stored procedure. The old ways were just awful. Building these messy, comma-separated strings that you have to parse, or even worse, calling the database over and over in a loop. It's just clunky and slow. There's got to be a better way.
And oh, there is. It's called Table-Valued Parameters, or TVPs, and this is a total game changer. You just define a type in SQL using createType as table, and boom! Your application can now bundle up an entire table's worth of data and send it as one single clean parameter. No more string splitting, no more dozens of round trips. For bulk operations, this is unbelievably efficient.
All right, here's another classic problem. You need a unique number. The go-to is usually an identity column, but that's locked to a single table. What if you need a shared counter, something that multiple tables or even different applications can pull from to get the next unique ID in a sequence? And that's exactly what sequence objects are for. A sequence is its own object in the database. It doesn't belong to any table, which gives you so much flexibility. You just create it once, and anytime you need a new number, you just call next value for your sequence. It's that simple. Super clean, super useful. Okay, on to our next big theme, taking your query performance to the next level. And look, this isn't just about speed. These tools are about writing SQL that's more readable, easier to maintain, and just smarter. So picture this. You need a running total of sales, or maybe you need to calculate a moving average. The old school way uses group by, right? But the problem with group by is that it squashes all your beautiful detailed rows into one single summary line. What if you need both, the detail and the calculation, side by side? This is the magic of window functions. See, group by on the left, it just collapses everything. But a window function, using that special over clause, it sort of looks at a window of rows, does the calculation, but leaves all the original rows intact. So you get the aggregate value on every single row. For analytics, this is absolutely essential.
Oh boy, we've all seen these queries. The ones with subqueries, nested inside other subqueries, nested inside even more subqueries. They become this tangled mess that's impossible to read, a total nightmare to debug. It's that query onion. So many layers, it just makes you want to cry.
The beautiful solution to that mess is the Common Table Expression, or CTE, and the workflow couldn't be simpler. You start with the with keyword to define a little temporary result set. You give it a nice clear name, and then in your main query, you just use that name like it's any other table. It lets you build complex logic, step by step, turning chaos into something clean and readable.
Let's talk about big tables for a second. Imagine you've got a massive orders table, millions and millions of rows. But 99% of the time, your application only cares about the tiny slice of orders that are currently open. Putting a standard index on the whole table for that just feels wasteful, doesn't it?
This is the perfect job for a filtered index. It's exactly what it sounds like, an index that you create with a where clause. So you could literally say, create an index, but only where status equals open. What you get is this tiny, lightning-fast index that only contains the rows you care about most. And for those specific queries, the performance boost is just huge.
All right, for our last big topic, let's look at some modern features. The world of software development changes fast, and SQL Server has really evolved to keep up. It's got some amazing capabilities for handling the kinds of data challenges we face today.
I mean, let's be real. JSON is everywhere now. APIs, config files, you name it. But for the longest time, trying to get that kind of semi-structured data to work nicely inside a traditional relational database was awkward. It usually meant a lot of annoying parsing code in your application.
Well, those days are over. SQL Server has fantastic native JSON support now. You can just store JSON text right in a column and then use simple functions like JSON value to pull out the pieces you need, just like you see here. It basically lets you shred that JSON into a perfect relational result set that you can query any way you want.
Data auditing is so important. Questions like, who changed this customer's address? Or what did this record look like last month? Answering those usually meant you had to write your own complex, fragile triggers and history tables. And it's a ton of work to get right.
Well, check this out. Temporal tables do all of that work for you. You literally just flip a switch on your table. System versioning equals on. That's it. From that moment on, SQL Server automatically tracks every single change to every row in a separate history table. It is, no joke, like having a time machine for your data, and you barely have to lift a finger.
And there we have it. We've just walked through 7 incredibly powerful features that can seriously change how you write code and work with SQL Server. This isn't just a list of tips. This is a new toolkit for you.
Think about it. From sending data efficiently with TVPs, to writing beautiful analytical queries with window functions and CTEs, and all the way to handling modern data with JSON support and temporal tables. Every single one of these solves a real-world problem in a really powerful way. These are all ready for you to go use today.
So I guess the only question left is, when you think about the code you're working on right now, which one of these secret weapons are you going to unleash first? Thanks so much for watching.